Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. It is sunny outside, and even though it's the first part of November and we had a little cold snap, I am liking this weather that it's going to get up to the high 70s today, so I'm excited about that. Everybody else is going, come on, get the cold weather going. Me, it could stay away for a long time, and I'd be perfectly happy with that. Today we're going to be making what is called Bierocks. And they're also known as Runzas or German burgers. And what this is a ground beef, cabbage, onion mixture inside a little pocket of homemade bread. So I'm right in the middle of trying to let the dogs out, get them to eat their breakfast. I'm fixing my breakfast, but I've got the bread started. So we are just waking up our yeast in some warm milk and a little bit of honey. So after that takes place, we're going to add the flour and the salt and the butter and get the dough going. So that's a little lengthy process. Then we'll make the meat after a while. Now we're having these for dinner tonight, so I'm not so much in a rush to get it done to eat, but I need to go do other things somewhere else. I'm getting ready for an event this week, and I am cooking my last of 3 soups, and I'm making a big batch of it, so I gotta leave the house. So this is gonna take me a little while to get the dough going, and I wanted you to see the process of that, but we're going to do the dough and then we'll do the meat, kind of last minute thing. We bake these in the oven. They're not a fried dish, so it's clean, it's easy, and kids love these. Adults love these, so we haven't had them in a while. We're going to invite neighbor Katie over, and she and her daughter are going to eat dinner with us. And so we're looking forward to this beautiful day and a fun day to make some Bierocks. So go with us as we get that done. Okay, our yeast has activated. I'm dropping 2 tablespoons of butter in there. One egg. A little over 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Right on the top. Put our dough hook on. And plug in the mixer. We're going to let this run for about 5 minutes initially. Now we're going to turn our mixer off. It's been running about 5 minutes. Looks like it climbed up a little too high and get on the mixer itself. We're just going to let this rest for 5 minutes, and all this period does is it's just called a relaxing stage, to where the liquid in there is actually absorbed by the wheat itself. And although when you put a liquid in flour, it looks like it's absorbed, but it's really not absorbed all the way. Those little particles of wheat have to, the little tiny pieces of wheat in flour need to absorb that liquid a lot more, and then it relaxes. So we're going to let this rest for 5 minutes, then we're going to turn the mixer back on and run it for another 40 minutes. Okay, we're going to turn our mixer back on, run it for, like I said, another 40 minutes, and try to keep my mixer on the countertop. It has a tendency to walk away. Okay, I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. I have no microphone. You know why? Because after I had videoed several segments of this, I looked down and I tried to turn my microphone on and the cover to the battery casing broke off, the latch on it. So I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing half the time anyway, but I'm just gonna try to muddle my way through this by using the microphone on the cameras. So sorry about the sound. I'm really sorry. It's been a busy day. I've been back and forth to a different location where the event is taking place on Thursday that I'm catering some stuff for. So I'm trying to get the stuff ready. So I'm going there, making soup, coming back here, doing something else, going back there, turning the roaster on, come back here, doing something, eating lunch, going back there, shredding cheese, or not shredding cheese, but cutting it in big chunks, putting it in there, stirring it till it melts, and just, it's been busy. So, and then my microphone broke. So anyway, got a small head of cabbage. When I say small head, it doesn't have to be any particular size. Get a big head and use half of it, but we're just gonna take some of this, cut it in little shreds, and we're gonna make our filling for our Bierocks. Now, I did not grow up eating these. This is not something that's familiar to me as far as something I ate as a kid, but my sister said she had these in school where she went to a high school. So she said they called them German burgers. And I guess I'm making them the same way they made them there, but I don't know. Very few ingredients, super easy to make. Now, when we were doing specific carbohydrate diet that a family member was on, and we were kind of trying to accommodate that with most of our meals, instead of making this with the dough on the outside, we just put the insides on our plate and ate it like that. Honestly, it was good. It was very good. I was shocked. But if you're not a fan of mustard, I really don't know what to tell you. But I love mustard on this. It just gives it such good flavor. But you could always use something different. I'm not sure what you'd use. Please don't tell me you're using ketchup on this. That would be so bad. You can tell I'm not a huge fan of ketchup. These are fun to make and then just store in the fridge and heat them up as you need them too. So they're pretty handy in that way. Now, as best I remember, the last time I made these, this dough recipe makes about 8 Bierocks, but I could be wrong. I'll have to check the recipe in just a minute. I'll have to cut this part of the center of it out, just that little core right there. Kind of cut around it and use what we can. My doggies love cabbage, so anytime I cook with cabbage, I usually try to save the scraps and give them a few, not just an immense amount, but they think it's such a treat to get cabbage. And this is an organic cabbage. I honestly haven't bought cabbage in a while. I used to buy cabbage a lot when we were doing specific carbohydrate diet, but since we're not doing that anymore, I really don't buy it as much, but we really do like it a lot. As a kid, I just had cooked cabbage. I don't remember ever having it in anything, but had I had these when I was a kid, I think I liked them. All right, this looks like a lot of cabbage, but once you start cooking it with your ground beef, it cooks down and it gets rather small. It doesn't look like quite as much volume as what it did when it was uncooked. All right, so this is what we're left with. A full bowl of cabbage. And let's see if you can see it in that. Yep, just a full bowl. Okay, let's go over to the stove. We're gonna start cooking our ground beef and put our cabbage in it and get our filling made. Almost forgot, I have to shred up, or not shred up, but cut up an onion as well.
go ahead and do that while my skillet is heating up. And you don't even have to get the onion pieces really small because it's going to cook down and it's going to look a lot like the cabbage. That is strong. Man. Okay. Let's get our ground beef cut open. And I'm just using 85/15, just grass-fed organic ground beef. I want to brown this a little bit on the edges that's touching the skillet before I get to cooking the vegetables in there. Just has such a good flavor when you get that browning going. I think that's called a Maillard effect or something. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but no, it gives it a good flavor. And again, I apologize for the sound. I know it probably doesn't sound like it's loud enough, but I don't have a microphone because it broke. But I'm not going to stop in the middle of a recipe when I already have this planned out to show you just because I broke my microphone. I also wanted to let you know that I made the dough earlier today and I put it in the refrigerator in a covered container. That's what I was doing on that other video. I put it in this glass container with a sealed lid, so it's just been chilling, but it's still rising in the refrigerator, so we'll use that in just a bit. I just wanted to let you know it hasn't just been sitting out on the counter waiting on me. So basically, a pound of ground beef, a small head of cabbage, or however much you want to use, and then 1 onion. And to that, we're just going to season it with salt and pepper. That's going to be the insides of this. So the simplest of simple ingredients. And I'm hoping you give this a try. Don't be afraid of the bread part of it. You're just going to heat your milk up to where it's kind of warm to your finger. You just don't want to get it above 120 degrees. That's the point to where the yeast can't survive the heat. But anything below that, it's going to do beautifully, especially in the cooler weather. If your house is nice and warm on the inside, yeast bread does great. I'm trying to get as much of the meat touching the surface of the skillet so it can brown, but it sounds like my temperature's gone down because of the coolness of the meat. Oh well, I see a little bit of browning right there, but we're good. Okay, try to get it as chopped up as you can, not to leave too many big chunks in it. You want it kind of a smooth consistency just because you're going to be putting it inside that bread and sealing it up, and you don't want any big chunks because they'll want to creep out the edge. All right, the meat will continue to brown, and I'm going to go ahead and add our onions. We're going to add our cabbage. Using a Dutch oven for this isn't a bad idea either, because a skillet can easily be overwhelmed by the amount of cabbage you're using. I'm going to put a lid on this and it'll cook down just fine, but If you're the type that likes to stir your ingredients, then go ahead and put it in a Dutch oven. That way you don't stir it out onto your stovetop. All right, I'm going to get a cast iron lid, my blue one, and put on top of this. That way it'll weight it down. Okay, we'll let that cook down. In the meanwhile, we'll go over and divide up our dough into our rolls. All right, here's our dough. Probably need my heavy rolling pin. This dough is still a little bit cool and it might be a little hard to roll out. Maybe not though. Notice I'm not flouring the countertop. I did not flour, or I did not grease my bowl. People that put grease in a bowl and say, you want to grease your bowl because it's easier for the dough to get out. Just gives it more grease. I mean, not that that hurts it, but it really doesn't need it. This dough has butter in it. Is it butter, or did I put butter or olive oil? I can't remember. But I've gone back and forth cooking too many different things today, and I can't remember what I've done to what. But this has enough oil in it to where it releases pretty well. You're not going to lose your dough in there. And it doesn't stick to the countertop that bad either. All right, we're going to divide this into 8 portions. Now, if you wanted to, you could roll this out to about 1/2 inch thick and cut it in circles. I just find that it's easier to divide it into 8 portions and roll those each out into circles. But do it however you find it to be easier. This dough is really, really soft and easy to work with. So we're basically dividing the whole thing in half. We're dividing each one of those in half, and then we're dividing each one of those in half. The recipe for this will be in the description. That's how we do all our videos, unless I just happen to miss one. And normally my husband catches it before he finishes editing it. The only thing that doesn't have a recipe are things like gardening tips, sewing tips, you know, things like that. Okay, so we have 8 portions out here. Get our baking pan. I think we can probably fit them all on one baking pan. So get it as much in a circle as you can to start out with, and then we'll finish it out just rolling it out flatter. Now, if this dough had just been made and not relaxed quite a bit, it would start drawing up. It wouldn't be near this easy to roll out. So, note to friends, let it sit for a while. That's why I didn't mind putting this in the refrigerator and coming back to it later. And everybody always wants to roll theirs out perfectly round. I don't roll mine out perfectly round, but if you do, then that's great. But they're going to taste just as good. Let me get the camera back so you can see. Mine are not perfectly round. Okay, we can just kind of line these up and get them ready. Our filling isn't even finished yet. Let me go over and stir. Okay, still cooking down a bit, so it's fine. I started to say something when I was over at the stove stirring that up, and then I thought, they probably can't hear me. I don't have a microphone. Now, if you want to flour your countertop, if you think it's going to stick, then that's fine. But these really do not stick to the countertop. They just don't. They have enough oil in them where they just release really nicely. Zoe's going to provide some entertainment for us back there in the background. If you're wondering how big I'm rolling these out, let me grab a ruler and I will measure it for you. Give you an approximate size. That is almost 8 inches across. So average 8 inches. Okay, I'm just going to continue to roll these out, and we'll wait for our meat mixture to cook down, and then we're going to fill those up. Put about that much salt in there. Close to a teaspoon. Okay, our dough is all rolled out and we're ready for our meat mixture to go on it, but we probably need to turn the burner off, let it cool off for just a little bit, but the steam from that meat will actually help this bread rise and get really puffy. So we'll go give our meat a peek, or our meat mixture a peek, and maybe turn the burner off. Okay, I turned the burner off, but I want you to see what it looks like as it's cooking. It still has some browning of the meat going on right there, but once this starts cooling off, it'll release from the bottom of the skillet. It'll be perfect. Just wanted to get it all mixed up, and that's what it looks like. Okay, we are going to start assembling these. We have to let them rise or rest for just a little bit. The dough is going to rise during that time, but we'll have to do that for about 20 minutes. And I want to go ahead and get those filled. Sorry, I walked off talking. Knowing good and well, I don't have a microphone. Ugh. I guess it's like when your electricity goes out and you still walk in the closet or a room and automatically just flip the light switch on. And then you say, yes, our electricity is out. Or turning the faucet on if your water's off or something like that. All right, I remember when I made these last time, it's a surprising amount of filling you can put in each one of these. but I don't remember exactly how much. We'll just guess. So we're going to take these, fold the dough over, and just kind of seal it on the edge. This dough is a little bit wet, not like sticky wet for your hands to stick to, but it is it's a moist dough. So I'm going to fold over the edge of this, and if you can't see what I'm doing, I'm holding my finger down and then pulling the edge over and pressing it down. It looks like a decorative edge, but that's not really what my intention is. It's not like I'm trying to get fancy. But they do turn out pretty. So you can see what that looks like. Look at the edge of that. We're going to have to adjust these on our tray so they'll all fit on there. I may have to get out another baking sheet and use more than one. Make sure you don't have any chunks of cabbage or ground beef on the edge of it that will keep it from sealing. And also try to kind of push all the air out that you can too. I didn't on that last one, so it may poof up really big. Okay, again, we're gonna take and seal the edge by crimping it a little bit. Now, if you wanted these to look really, really pretty, you could take an egg wash and brush them with it, and they'll be really shiny, but I don't necessarily need that tonight. These are just for dinner, and I don't think anybody's going to be impressed with my shiny dough skills at our dinner table tonight. Okay, I'll show you how to do a third one, and then you're probably tired of watching me do this by now. So I don't know if other people on YouTube feel this way, but sometimes I think if I could just invite people over just so they could see what I'm doing, this would be so much better, because my YouTube channel is not necessarily for entertainment purposes, as you will, but it's almost like just a continuing cookbook for people to collect recipes and for me to have on hand too. If somebody calls and says, can you share your recipe of such and such with the Bierocks, for example? Sure, I just shoot them the video. I mean, just like I would anybody else. Somebody texted me this morning and said we're going to be giving our Bible class teachers hot chocolate mix for Christmas. Can you share your hot chocolate mix recipe that you've used before? And I said, absolutely, I would be honored to do that. And so I just shoot them a copy of a recipe that's in my files. There's not necessarily a video for that one, but she didn't need a video. She just needed the recipe written out. So it's just so handy to have. But at the same time, I know there are people who are very visual and they want to see exactly how you're doing it, and maybe reach out and touch the dough or something like that, just so they can get a better idea of what's going on, especially if you're kind of new at cooking and you're still intimidated by things like yeast dough like this, or brownings, something in the oven, something like that. But every once in a while, I just think it'd be fun to have, maybe, 4 or 5 people over, just to have a little audience so they could ask questions that I don't think to answer. Because a lot of times I'll turn the camera off and I'll think, you know what I forgot to explain? I forgot to explain that that's gluten-free, or that doesn't have processed sugar, or this is nut-free and normally they're not, or, just something like that. But then I can't go back and add it to it. But if somebody were here and they were asking questions, or at least seeing it firsthand, they would know a better idea of what's going on. Okay, so I said I was going to do one more and then I was going to stop, didn't I? So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to finish these up. I have some, I need to set my oven too because I have some ginger sesame green beans that I'm going to serve with these, just as a side for a vegetable. But I wanted you to see what these look like. If you look at them before they go in the oven. And it looks like I am going to need another baking sheet, so I'll get out another one of those. And then when these come out of the oven, I'll let you take a look at it. Hopefully I'll remember to video one when we cut it open and dip it in our mustard and start eating. So anyway, we'll be right back.
Is this a video?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a video or a picture?
Nope, it's a video. Is it good, Maddie?
Mm-hmm.